Namaskar, good afternoon. I'm Swati Joshi. You're watching a continuous coverage on the situation unfolding in the Middle East and beyond as well. Donald Trump's war in Iran has now triggered a political and energy storm here in India. At the center of the controversy is a statement from the United States claiming it has given India a temporary 30-day window to purchase Russian oil. The U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent said this step was taken to enable oil to keep flowing into global markets as the war in the Middle East disrupts supply chains. The waiver, according to Washington, applies to Russian oil cargoes already at sea, shipments that were loaded before the latest escalation. Let me, in fact, introduce the guests, the experts who are joining us here in the studios. Commodore Anil Jay Singh, submarine veteran, Vice President of the Indian Maritime Foundation. We also have Robinder Sachdev, Founder, President of Imagine India Institute. Thank you very much for joining us, gentlemen. Let me first come to you, Commodore Anil Jay Singh. How do you look at this situation? Because this has definitely triggered politics here. As far as domestic politics is concerned, the opposition hitting out at the government, saying, why is Trump dictating terms? But in terms of strategy, how do you look at this?
I think this war, firstly, wasn't really surprising, in the sense that tension had been building up in the region for a while. We know that Iran, any disruption in Iran would inevitably impact the Straits of Hormuz, because Iran has been making a threat about shutting it for many, many years. It's always been considered a very strategic choke point, and closure of the Straits of Hormuz means global disruption. Every country is going to be affected by it in one way or another, because more than 20% of global oil comes out from the Gulf. India, and particularly the Far East, that's China, Japan, South Korea, are very heavily dependent on oil from the Gulf. And so that was another factor which comes into play. So India has to play its cards very smartly. I think we have to be very, very measured in our responses. It affects us directly. So while, yes, there has been opposition that India hasn't reacted the way a big power should, etc., but I'm sure, it is not that the sense of urgency has not been felt or that we've been indifferent to it. It's just that probably we're looking for the opportune moment or the right reaction to ensure that we don't ruffle feathers on either side. India has been one of the few countries over the years, if you notice, which has had good relations with both Iran and Israel, right through. And this disruption, we've invested in Chabahar, etc. The first sort of setback was when President Trump's first presidency, when he abrogated the JCPOA and told us to stop taking oil from Iran. But notwithstanding that, we continued investing in Chabahar because that is strategically very important to us. We have to have a place from where we can also have some say in what's happening in the Straits of Hormuz. Unfortunately, this time we've been told to lay off Chabahar. I think Chabahar has been attacked. I don't know how much damage has been done over there. But India has to play its cards very, very carefully, in a very calibrated manner, to ensure that our national interests are not compromised in any way.
Right. So we've been cautious and our response has been measured. But Mr. Sachdev, how do you see the developments? Because the opposition seems rather triggered by what Donald Trump has said, instead of focusing on what our policy should be, how we need to be dealing with the situation, while ensuring that we stay far, far away from it.
I think it begins by us being honest with our own selves. We have a overly, pardon the term, inflated ideas about where we are in this world matrix which is under construction. We are a 4.5 trillion economy. USA is a $30 trillion economy. There are some harsh realities of life. We are all working men and women. So let's say your salary in a month is 20,000 rupees. You have to live within those 20,000. You cannot be living the lifestyle of a 100,000 a month person. I'll explain why. And in a sense, opposition is correct. I mean, who is the US to give us waiver? India should say thank you, but no thank you to Mr. Trump. But the reality is that we have to adjust. The issue of Russian oil, where it all started, if we kept on buying Russian oil, we were facing 50% tariffs. We were saving around $10 billion a year when we were purchasing Russian oil. On the other hand of the ledger, our exports to America, if 50% tariff had continued, would have gone down by $50 billion. We are exporting around $95 billion to America. If for 1 year the 50% had remained, we would have lost $50 billion of exports to America.
Right.
A common sense question to the House. What should you do? Save $10 billion from Russian imports, or save 50 billion exports. I think the judgment will go, let us sacrifice the Russian oil, because that's a common sense thing. I mean, that's the game
when you
America
say
set
common sense, when you say common sense, you also mean that you need to put India's interests first. And when you say adjust, more than taking this as Russia dominating or dictating, at the moment, you're saying let's not get into the confrontational mode. We'll discuss this further, but we have some breaking inputs coming in as well. And this is about what the Raksha Mantri said earlier about the situation as far as the Strait of Hormuz is concerned. The Raksha Mantri has warned of oil supply risks. Rajnath Singh said Hormuz disruption can hit global trade. Middle East situation getting more complex. So what the Raksha Mantri there is saying is what the experts around the globe have been monitoring very, very closely. That's the worry of the world. Rajnath Singh saying energy routes are under global stress and there's uncertainty in Hormuz which can shake economies. Let's listen in.
यदि हम स्ट्रेट ऑफ हार्मुज या पूरे पर्शियन गल्फ क्षेत्र को देखें तो यह विश्व की एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी का एक अत्यंत महत्वपूर्ण क्षेत्र है। जब इस क्षेत्र में डिस्टरबेंस या डिसरप्शन होता है तो उसका सीधा असर ऑयल और गैस की सप्लाई पर पड़ता है। इन अनसर्टेनिटीज का सीधा प्रभाव इकोनॉमी और ग्लोबल ट्रेड पर पड़ता है। यह एक एबनॉर्मल सिचुएशन है, मैं ऐसा मानता हूं। व्हाट आई कंसीडर एज मोर वरिंग इज द फैक्ट दैट दिस abnormalcy is becoming the new normal.
So, Commander Singh, of course, the governments are watching this very, very closely. It's not just India, but global economies will take a hit if this intensifies and worsens. Like, we've been speaking to experts who are saying the situation is it's not the worst case scenario yet, but we have to be prepared. India is also diversifying, but how much room or scope is there for us to get out of this situation?
From an energy security point of view, this is one of our biggest challenges. One of the biggest strategic challenges for India has been ensuring its both energy security and security of its energy. They're two different things, actually. So if you take the Straits of Hormuz, if you see the situation today, 44% of our gas comes from Qatar. Now, if Qatar stops either producing gas, which they have put a hold on for some time, or those gas tankers are prevented from leaving the Straits of Hormuz, it may not have an immediate effect because we claim that we have sufficient reserves, which I don't know in quantification how many days does that mean, but the petroleum minister has said we have sufficient reserves. Obviously, there will come a stage where this will begin to bite. The reserves will deplete. Oil prices may go up, not only because oil prices will go up because oil is not available, but also because the insurance rates are going to go up exponentially.
Yes.
For shipping, for freight, for everything. That's one factor which will lead to an increase in oil prices. The second factor is if we have to diversify our sources of supply. The closest source of supply for us so far was the Gulf. A ship would take only 3.5 days to reach India. If we have to diversify our supplies either to the Sakhalin Islands or to Venezuela or wherever else or to the US, this 3.5 days will become 12 to 15 days. Now that's going to have an impact on the cost. It's going to have an impact on the freight. It's going to have an impact on time. Our refining capacity is for a certain kind of crude. We'll have to adapt that to a different kind of crude. All that will lead to more capital expenditure. So that's one part of it. So this will lead to maybe a hike in oil prices in India, diesel, petrol. If that happens, it's going to have a cascading effect on everything else. Food, commodities, travel, the works. So it's going to pinch the common Indian beyond a certain point of time. It's going to pinch. I don't know if you will recall, but when the tanker war happened between 1980 and 88, petrol was rationed, diesel was rationed. We used to have to stand in queues to fill up our cars. Costs had gone up, and the country passed through a fairly grim phase, even though we were not very badly affected. However, this time it's very difficult to predict what's going to happen.
Okay.
Perhaps the 30-day waiver on getting more Russian oil would help ease the situation a bit, which America is now allowed.
But do we look weak when Donald Trump uses words like waiver? Let's find out how the opposition is reacting before we continue our discussion. The use of the words allow and waiver by Trump administration with regards to Russian oil purchase has triggered a major political firestorm in India. Opposition led by Congress is asking who is the United States to allow India to buy oil. Congress leaders have accused the government of compromising India's strategic autonomy. They say India does not need permission from Washington to decide where it will import energy from. Leader of opposition in Lok Sabha, Rahul Gandhi, has taken to social media to slam the government. He says, and I quote, "What we are witnessing today is not policy. It is the result of exploitation of a compromised individual." Sample the reactions from the opposition.
Who is United States of America to tell us where to buy Russian oil from? When to buy, how to buy, at what rate to buy? क्या हमने पूरा का पूरा डिसीजन मेकिंग प्रोसेस यूएस के हवाले दे दिया है? वो हमें कह रहा है वी आर अलाउइंग इंडिया टू बाय रशियन ऑयल फॉर 30 डेज. तो ये तो फॉरेन मिनिस्टर को आकर जवाब देना चाहिए.
भाजपा की सरकार में जिस तरह से रशिया से तेल नहीं खरीदेंगे, हम ये नहीं करेंगे, हम वो नहीं करेंगे, हमें किसानों के लिए पूरा व्यापार खोलना पड़ेगा, ये फैसले हुए. और अब जिस तरह की खबरें आ रही हैं कि 30 दिन का समय मिला है, अमेरिका कौन होता है भारत को 30 दिन का समय देने वाला? अगर हमारे देश हित से जुड़ा मुद्दा है, अगर हमारे देश के सामने कठिनाइयां परेशानियां हैं, तो देश हित में हमारी सरकार फैसला करेगी. अमेरिका कौन होता है ये फैसला बताने वाला कि 30 दिन की छूट दी जा रही? इसलिए देश की सरकार को विदेश नीति को स्पष्ट करना चाहिए, देश हित में फैसले लेने चाहिए और किसी दबाव की आवश्यकता देश की सरकार को नहीं है.
When the government surrendered before Trump by accepting that they will not purchase oil from Russia, then anxiety was there. It will create trouble for shortage of fuel and all these things. Now, because of war pressure, शायद immediately Trump is busy with Iran. He cannot look at tariff and all these things. He will do it later on after getting some relief from this war.
इसका राय तो आदरणीय प्रधानमंत्री जी से, आदरणीय गृह मंत्री जी से, आदरणीय जितने भी हमारे वो कैबिनेट मिनिस्टर हैं और विदेश मंत्री से पूछिए, ऑयल मिनिस्टर से पूछिए उनका क्या राय है इस पर. मतलब हम लोगों को अमेरिका चलाएगा? 200 साल तक अंग्रेज लोग गुलाम रखे थे. अब अमेरिका कहेगा तो हम तेल खरीदेंगे, अमेरिका कहेगा तो हम तेल नहीं खरीदेंगे, अमेरिका जो कहेगा वो हम करेंगे. अमेरिका कहेगा कि हमारा सोयाबीन लो, अमेरिका कहेगा कि हमारा दूध खाओ, अमेरिका कहेगा कि हमारा गेहूं खाओ, जो कहेगा वही हम करेंगे. हम उसका गुलाम में नहीं ना हैं.
Let's go across to Mohit Bhatt. Mohit, a lot of reactions coming in from the opposition. Opposition asking who is United States to dictate their terms to allow us to buy oil. Opposition also has arrived at the conclusion that this has happened because the Prime Minister is compromised.
Well, yes, in fact, Swati, the U.S. Treasury Secretary's statement that has come out has ignited a massive war of words between the opposition and the BJP. Though the BJP officially, the government has officially not come out and they have made a statement on the language that is being used. But this 30-day waiver to allow Indian refiners to purchase Russian oil, this particular statement has been picked up by the opposition parties. Now, specifically the Congress party, they are attacking the government, saying that we are a sovereign country, we are not a subordinate nation, that we will act as per the wishes and whims of US. Then why exactly the government is not coming out and they are denying what the US is saying? They need to condemn the language that is being used. Now the government sources have clearly stated that India will continue to buy Russian oil and we will put our national interest first. We will not be dictated by anybody. But then the opposition parties are coming out, they're attacking the government over the statement that why exactly US has to give waivers to India, why we are working as per the directions of US according to their statement. This is where the opposition is attacking the Bharatiya Janata Party and the government.
All right, Mohit, thank you for getting us the details. We also have a reaction coming in from Tehseen Poonawala. Let's listen in.
The US Treasury Secretary has just announced publicly that the United States of America has given India a 30-day waiver to purchase Russian crude oil. How bizarre is this? The United States of America is giving India permission? At the time of the Indo-US trade deal, the interim agreement, United States of America repeatedly claimed, which the Indian government tried to deny, that India would no longer purchase Russian crude oil. Now, Russia has been a steadfast friend of India. And the reason the United States of America said that it's preventing India from purchasing Russian crude oil is because the United States of America wanted to stop the Russia-Ukraine war. Now the United States of America has not stopped the Russia-Ukraine war, but gone ahead and started the Iran-Israel war.
Now, as far as Donald Trump is concerned, now, is this really a US waiver or is this a Washington U-turn? Because the record tells a very different story. Let's take you through Trump's flip-flops on Russian oil. The man who warned India of tariffs over buying Russian oil is now asking India to buy Russian oil to enable oil to keep flowing into global markets.
Modi is a great man. That he loves Trump. And he's assured me there will be no oil purchased from Russia. I don't know, maybe that's a breaking story. Can I say that? Would you say? There will be no oil. He's not buying his oil from Russia. It started. Well, India is not going to be buying Russian oil anymore. India will not be buying oil from Russia. And, they've already de-escalated and they've more or less stopped. They're pulling back. Well, I think I'll be talking to him about it. I think it's a little bit of a different talk. India, as you know, has told me they are stop. You know, it's a process. You can't just stop it. But by the end of the year, they'll be down to almost nothing.
Well, government sources say India's energy security is fully intact. New Delhi will continue buying Russian crude supplies, and they are under control. India has sufficient oil reserves, and the government is actively engaged in multiple diplomatic channels to keep global supply stable. Most importantly, sources say the government will not allow fuel prices to rise in the domestic market. In fact, early signs suggest those efforts are working. Crude prices have already fallen by about $1.5 per barrel, which raises a much bigger question. Let's listen into the reactions coming in, the defense coming in from the BJP.
प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र मोदी जी ने बार बार ये स्पष्ट किया कि भारत के हितों के साथ कभी भी कोई समझौता नहीं होगा और ये खाली केवल उनका कहना नहीं है, उन्होंने ये करके दिखाया है। और वर्तमान में जो युद्ध चल रहा है उस युद्ध से तेल को लेकर के जो आशंकाएं प्रकट की जा रही हैं, मुझे लगता है कि वो पूर्ण रूप से निर्मूल है, निराधार है। देश में पर्याप्त मात्रा में तेल का भंडार है, कहीं किसी प्रकार से कोई फर्क पड़ने वाला नहीं है। भारत अपने फैसले स्वयं लेता है, ये बात हम सब जानते हैं।
All right, shifting our focus to some breaking inputs coming in.